All right, guys, we're back with another episode of the Filmaholic. Today we're going to be talking about DC and their films. We're going to start with Man of Steel. We're going to do several series of videos here where we break down and discuss each film in the DC universe and the overall mistakes that they've made so far. So to kick things off, let's discuss. So the Dark Knight trilogy, right? We had that 2005, 2008, 2012. In my opinion, this is one of the best trilogies ever made. Not just in comic book films, but just in films, period. The directing's perfect in this, acting, storylines are incredible. I love The Dark Knight Rises. Despite what some people have, problems they have with the film, I think it's a perfect film. But Nolan always envisioned this as a contained trilogy, right? So he didn't want to continue on after this. He didn't want to make a Batman 4 or The Dark Knight 4. He didn't want this to be a part of a larger universe. He wanted it to end. So DC respected his wishes and decided not to continue the Dark Knight trilogy, and instead they reimagined the DC universe after the Dark Knight trilogy. That's all fine and good, right? Like, if that's what they were going to do, go ahead. The problem is they made this decision, but then they still brought Nolan along for the ride. And let him start shepherding in this new era of DC, but he wasn't a part of it. So it was like, what are you doing here? Because if you look at it, Nolan came up with a story for Man of Steel, and then he picked out Zack Snyder himself, and had a meeting with Zack Snyder and pitched him the story, and they talked about it and stuff. Zack Snyder is the big guy in DC for a while because of Nolan. Man of Steel is out there because of Nolan, which I know Man of Steel, a lot of fans like that movie. I'm not really one of them. What is your opinion on Man of Steel?
I still enjoy it in some way, but it's something I wouldn't go out of my way to go see it, or at least pop the DVD or something. If it's on TV, I'll be like, let me see. Why not? I'll probably catch a few clips here or there on YouTube. I do remember the first time it came out, I was pretty excited for it, and I wasn't too oh my god, it's the best Superman film. I was just all right, it's an improvement from Superman Returns.
By far, yeah.
I still enjoy Superman Returns no matter what, though. So I still think Brandon Routh was good, though. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, man, I was about to fucking get a lot of seizures just from watching that movie at times. God, especially that third act fight. I was watching the movie like this. I was just like.
Before we get into all of that, what did you think about Nolan? Them pretty much letting him start this DC universe with not being a part of it, and what did you think about Zack Snyder being the person chosen to direct Man of Steel and kick off the DC universe?
I think with Christopher Nolan, we were aware that he was just gonna he was just all right, this is gonna be its own thing. I think he was just flat out clear with that. But with Zack Snyder, I still respect him. He had a vision. It even if I won't say terrible, but as much as majority of us didn't, as majority of us, I mean, the fans, we didn't agree on it. I still think at the end of the day, we can all respect he had a vision for it.
Yeah, I respect that, and and we'll get to those in future videos when we talk about the other movies. But
if even he didn't understand the characters, his heart was still in the right place. He still had a vision, no matter what. But he wasn't the guy to take the job. But
no,
I think,
and I don't.
He would have been a guy to direct a DC film, but he wasn't the guy to do the job, to take control of everything.
No, I don't even think that he had that big a problem understanding the characters. Really, I just don't think he's that great of a director. For one, And I do respect his vision. I think he had a very unique vision that I wish we could have seen all the way through. But he, most importantly, he wasn't the guy to direct the first film in the DC universe. Okay, so like, look at Marvel, and this is just for an example. I'm not trying to like say one is better than the other or whatever, but look at Marvel. Jon Favreau kind of laid the groundwork for the tone of the MCU with the first Iron Man, and then followed up with Iron Man 2. Zack Snyder laid the groundwork for the DC universe with Man of Steel. Sort of. And it was very Zack Snyder, but it also was still trying to follow the Nolan films too with the darkness, which I don't mind, but it's just that you were rebooting it because you weren't continuing Nolan's films, so why did you feel like you had to make it in the same style?
Yeah, and also one thing to think away from the Marvel movies was like these were characters like, well, even like Thor, these were characters that you were trying to have humans trying to become gods, like pretty much them trying to become the better version of themselves.
Yeah.
But in DC, you already had these, like, they were basically like, right when you were introduced to them, they were just like overpowered heroes, and for us, for the viewers, it's just like, all right, we haven't been like, we read the books about you, but we haven't been in the ride along with you for the cinematic universe. Like, we just get thrown into this, and we just like I don't feel any attachment towards you.
No, and that's another big issue I have with Men of Steel is I don't feel anything really emotionally in this film when I watch it.
No.
Like, and that goes back to both the writing of the film, but also Zack Snyder as a director. It was a very okay. So I'm going to say overall, I'll give it a 2.5 in my rating, which means a meh. That's what my 2.5 means. And that's kind of how I felt when I was watching the film, especially when I was trying to do a rewatch. I was just like, man, I'm bored. I don't feel anything. I don't care when I'm watching the film. Everything happens so fast in Man of Steel. Like, we get a lot of flashbacks and stuff, but of course, just like watching it, everything happens so fast, and we don't have time to like just live with these characters and see their journey. It's just like boom, Superman, he's there. And like overall, like how they set him up with him fighting Zod and everything, and that being introducing us to the DC universe, I think that was a unique way to start the universe, and I think that wasn't a bad decision. But just the structure of Man of Steel, outside of the beginning with the destruction of his planet and everything, like of Krypton, I think the structure was all over the place for that film.
I mean, the movie had like a solid blueprint. Like, they had a solid blueprint. So I was like, all right, like for first film, or the first film to like kick off the universe, it had a pretty solid blueprint. But they just didn't execute it right. They didn't shit the bed, but they just execution was not there.
Right. It wasn't a terrible film, and I liked it better when it came out than I do now rewatching it. But
For sure.
You have a really good cast in here. You can't not mention that, right? So like Henry Cavill aside, you got Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Extraordinary casting, but she's really kind of like just bland in the movie. And that's not her fault. It's just like I don't care. Like the bet, and then you have Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent. You have Diane Lane in there. Russell Crowe. I think the best parts as far as the casting go in this film was Michael Shannon as Zod. He was hands down the best part of the movie to me. Thought the character was good and his performance was good, and also really liked Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, but I just don't feel like we got enough of him in the film.
Oh man, they should have just stuck to like, all right, we know your story, but let's do it again,
Yeah,
that kind of thing, which I wouldn't mind, to be honest. It's like, all right, like with Batman it's just one thing, but with Superman we just haven't seen it. enough on screen. So I think a lot of people, not a lot, but I think people would have been cool with it.
I think so.
Like people would have like had their eyes rolled every time they see, like the Bruce parents getting shot. Spoiler alert! Every single time. But yeah, man, yeah. Speaking of back to the cast, man. Yeah, that was a waste, especially with Amy Adams.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I don't agree with a lot with Michael Shannon. Like he was good in it, but for me, he was not like the most exciting or the highlight about the film.
Okay.
Um, his casting against Zod, I don't like it. I don't hate it. I still like he still did the best what he was given and what he was asked to do. But yeah, man. Like, what was that thing? Like, I will fight him.
Well, that goes back to the directing, though. Like that. Why'd you leave that scene in there? Why'd you choose that scene? It was awkward, and I do agree with that. But I don't think that's Michael Shannon. I think
Oh,
that's
my 14-year-old self from the time would have directed a better scene than that. And I would have been like, Michael Shannon, baby, come on, let's do it again. All right, and action.
yeah. Let's. You kind of mentioned with the flashes and stuff earlier, and I had written down here that the movie feels like a fever dream half the time. Uh, it's just so much going on in like scenes that I'm like, I just what's actually happening, and like there's something, and Snyder does this a lot in Man of Steel, but he does this in a couple of his other in the other films too, where it's like there'll be a fight scene, right, and like one character goes like flying off to the side,
Yeah.
and like we see them go off of there, and the camera like zooms back across. Like I don't know what's happening. It looks awful. I don't know why you would set up shots like that. Uh, it makes you nauseous watching it in the theater. Like the lighting's terrible.
Oh, that's one thing about the list. Just real quick with the lighting. This movie felt depressing at times, and Superman is just supposed to be this optimistic symbol. And I feel like I'm watching like Superman going through his like puberty years in middle school.
Yeah, the color palette of these films, especially Man of Steel, was like there's just so just ugh.
It's like you're not Batman, you're Superman. Like, come on, you're supposed to have at least like I don't know, I think I'm probably going off, but like at least close to what like the color palettes Midsummer had, close to that. Not like
Well, I mean, like I said,
you know what I mean though, like close to that, something like that, like
you're
something
setting
that sense of optimism.
you're setting the tone for
Yeah,
your whole universe with this film. So like the films that follow after, no matter what they are, should feel like they're in the same universe. And so like with how they created this one, and Zack Snyder has a very distinct style. Like you watch Man of Steel, you watch Watchmen, uh, his other Sucker Punch, whatever. Like they all kind of look the same. So that's what you're setting for your DC universe. And then I don't I think that was a mistake from the start.
you've got 300.
Yes, forgot 300. I never watched that, but
You always have to see that movie, but never mind. I don't know, like with Watchmen, like I enjoyed it. Then for me, that's by far his best film. But I'm like, it's still it's good. But I want to say it's a masterpiece. I like like some people would like to say it is. But his take on Watchmen was well done. Like, like, hats off to him. But
you know they credit him as a visionary. This Zack Snyder, the visionary director, and all this, and I think he's a very ambitious director, and you got to admire that to an extent. But I just think he tried to put too much into. And we'll get to it when we talk about those films. All of these films that he's done, he tried to tell too much, and got too ahead of himself. And in this film in particular, I think he just rushed too much and tried to tell too much, and should have because there's some things in this film that do work as far as the intimate moments and like with him and his parents, but and the human side of things with Clark that you should have touched upon more.
Yeah.
And focus a little less on the
And
other
like,
stuff.
you know what, and also they probably would have faced a lot of backlash back then and some backlash right now. You should have touched like some like what we talked earlier, like the immigration. Like you have
Yeah,
this kid from another planet coming down here, stuff like that. Like I don't know, like like this is part that would have been backlash. It's just like like I'm from another planet. Like have young Clark go to his parents like I'm from another planet. Like well, why can't they stay here? They're from this planet. They just happen to be from another area.
definitely.
Or something
They
like
could
that.
have dived so heavily into that with these films, with Superman, and they dropped the ball. Like you can deal with that. You can deal with Lex becoming president, which we'll get to a little bit later when we talk about Lex Luthor. Um, I was going to let you guys know that we're going to be doing videos at some point after we get through talking about all of these. We're going to be doing videos of our version of the DC universe if we made these films, what our films would look like. So you might see some of the storylines in those, but we'll see.
Like they should also have like this. Like again, there should have like at least like have religion there, question about it. You know, like even for believers or non-believers, have those questions, those common questions. You know, like if aliens exist, that wouldn't that also have that like religions in question as well? Like have that like well, you know, have the balls to talk about risky topics, but do it right. You know, like what Jojo Rabbit did. You know, like execution. Like talk about it, but execute it right.
Do
Even
you
if
think
even if people have to disagree with it, still go for it.
Do you think Zod was the right villain to be in this movie, or would you have went with a different villain if you had made this movie in particular?
Man, if it was for Zack Snyder, for Zack Snyder DC, I think I would have. Probably for the second film, I would have done it.
Zod.
Yeah, probably for the second film.
I
Like,
actually like Zod being the villain in this first film. I think he was the right choice to go with, but
like I don't know, man. Like, I think probably like with I don't know. I just don't really know a lot of Superman villains. Like, person that they would have picked, like not a villain that's too like. I think a villain without powers, not like Lex Luthor, but someone who probably like test him mentally, or at least have that villain like question himself, Superman, like pretty much question himself. Just testing like mental games and all that.
well, one of the reasons I like Zod being the villain, well, a couple of different reasons I like Zod being the villain in this one. One is Superman meeting someone else that's like him, right? From his world, and then having to ultimately at the end of the film kill that person. You know, the last person that's like him, he has to kill them in order to save these people. Um,
And again, back to the immigrant thing. Like you have people that come here from other country, they get adapted to a culture. Then we have someone from like your home country, they come here just like, oh, you're not one of us. That would have been like another one right there.
um, but also, you know, with Zod, like, uh, I really liked in in Man of Steel with having Zod as like this platform to show to the world who Superman was, who Clark was as Superman, and introducing him to the world. I really thought that was something they did correctly in Man of Steel because it lays the groundwork. Because if you had him fight, I guess I don't know. Either way, this movie had to introduce him to the world, right? as like who is Superman. But I think the best way to do that was for him to be fighting somebody like Zod, because it introduces exactly what he is, because it's him fighting more people like him. So it opens the world exactly knows that he's from a different planet, versus if he had fought just like a smaller level villain, there would be questions about what Superman was. Is he really from a different planet, or is he like, did he have powers, or how did this person come to be?
Yeah, well, I still would have gone with what I said, but I can see where you're coming from, because like that would also like brought questions like what else is out there?
Yeah.
Like Martian Manhunter, like if this alien exists, could there possibly be magic, Shazam, or like if there's planets like that, like what else are there? Like what like like the Green Lantern Corps, or like they should like that man, like think about it, that could have been like introductions like from Batman, just like that would have a lot of questions like, oh fuck man, you having me like a lot of things now in my head.
And it's kind of like Man of Steel is kind of like Force Awakens, where Force Awakens is a better movie, but where there's so much possibility in this film of where the future could go, where we could go in the future of these films, and like for example, Lex Luthor is teased in Man of Steel. We see LexCorp being built. Bruce Wayne is teased, right? Like they hit the satellite in space, among a bunch of other things. But like those two in particular, I was like so excited for when I saw it in the film. I'm like, we're gonna get a new version of Lex Luthor on the big screen. I'm really excited for that because he's one of the best written villains ever. And we're gonna get Batman in a universe with other, superheroes. And ultimately, we get to what happens later, but I thought it was cool that they set those up in this film. I think overall the film should have had an after credit scene, and I think DC like started messing up with that. Like, you looked at the success of Marvel and having their after credit scenes. Why didn't you throw an after credit scene in Man of Steel? Imagine if the credits had rolled for Man of Steel, and then an after credit scene came on. That was pretty much the scenes that we got at the beginning of BVS, with the destruction of Metropolis and Batman seeing all of it and then looking up at the sky. Imagine if that had been the after credit scene of Man of Steel, how people would have gotten excited. That scene where he's like, hugging the girl and he looks up at the sky. Like, imagine if that was the last thing we saw in an after credit scene of Man of Steel.
Oh man. Yeah. Or like a mid credit scene at least.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm just finding a way how we can say that's Bruce Wayne, but okay, yeah.
How letting the audience know that it's Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
Oh, you just do a quick line. He's like, before he gets out of the car, when he's like in the car or something, like a phone call or somebody's in the car with him and they say Mr. Wayne or Bruce or whatever, like, then it's there.
Or have Alfred call like Master.
Yeah. I mean, really, you don't even have to say it. Like, I feel like it'd be like probably recognizable in the film when we saw it, like we would know that that's Bruce Wayne.
Oh, you know what? You don't have to, because fans will look it up on Twitter. Never mind.
Well, exactly. It would have been all over the news. Like, especially if you, like, for example, if the casting stayed the same that happens within the DCEU. So if you had Ben Affleck appear in that after credit scene, people would know something's up.
Yeah, even for the casual audience who don't know, like, you would have that one fan in the background, like, it's Batman.
Plus, like I'm saying, in that shot where he's hugging the girl, like holding the girl and like looking up at the sky, and seeing Superman and Zod fighting, you could have seen them crashing into, Wayne Enterprises.
Or his helicopter.
So much stuff you could have had in there that could have been exciting.
Then had that thing fully paid off. All right. Yeah, so much. Man, I'm trying. I had one thing in my mind, but you want to just go on? I'll tell you. I'll tell you if it comes back to my head.
Um, but yeah, I don't. Do you have any more thoughts about it?
No, right now, no.
Yeah. Overall, Man of Steel just was a meh film for me. I liked it better when it came out, and I think part of that was because there was so much possibility of where the story could go. Don't think it's a bad film. Think they made some right decisions with the story. The cast was good. Just I do want to mention one thing. Zack Snyder, right? So like personally, I don't think I would have hired him to make probably any of the DC films. If I had been back then and was choosing people to direct the films. But if I had to pick a film that I think he would have excelled at, I would have chose Aquaman. I think his style, if you look at like 300 or Sucker Punch, whatever, I think what he could have done with an Aquaman film could have looked visually very, very entertaining and interesting.
I agree, but then probably with less with the slow mo what he does. I really don't like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that. But yeah, that would have been a perfect choice. Um, probably, probably a Suicide Squad film.
For Zack Snyder?
Yeah, probably. But you will probably have like, but with some studio involvement into it, so he doesn't like get too Zack Snyder with it. 'Cause I think
I
he
don't
could
want to tell who I would have chosen to do Suicide Squad yet, but I can see
that's
Zack Snyder doing one.
do one. Probably Black Canary.
Do you have a person that you would have chose to direct Man of Steel?
Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Bitch. One who could probably. So I'm trying to think like someone that can capture that optimism, like that Boy Scout. Mm, fuck. You go first.
I don't really have anybody that because I'm trying to think back to when it came out and that those years who could have done it then, not who I would want to make it if it came out now. Um, and I don't really know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Matthew Vaughn, his name was thrown around a lot because I know he's wanted to make a Superman movie. That could have been interesting. I mean, he did a good job with First Class, and if he was a big fan of Superman, I think he could have done a good job. I think George Miller was another choice that could have been good.
I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to think names, especially since you kind of limited to around that time. It's really hard now. Harder.
Yeah, and it also goes to like, are we having the same person direct it and write it? Or are we having a different screenwriter? Because like, if we had a different screenwriter, I think J.J. Abrams could have been a good choice to direct Man of Steel back when it came out.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want him writing the screenplay for Man of Steel because if you look at what he wrote a Superman movie back in the 2000s. I think it was called Superman. I want to say Superman Flyby.
Yeah.
And that was like the stuff I've heard from that is just terrible. Like, I think he was going to have a jetpack or something. Like, it was some bullshit. He couldn't fly. Like Superman couldn't fly in the movie. He had like a jetpack, I think. Yeah, yeah. And I think Lex Luthor was supposed to actually be from Krypton in that film as well.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Superman.
So,
It's one of the most well known. Probably from I mean probably go bitches here. Probably bigger than God in the world. And this guy is known for fucking flying. And he was put a fucking jetpack.
Yeah. I mean,
what is he going to have Elon Musk in the third one and make him like a eco-friendly electrical jetpack? God, they can never do this shit right.
but yeah, I don't know. I think maybe
Matthew Vaughn. Yeah, but J.J. Abrams, I can see where yeah, just for the directing, because like he knows how to capture that aesthetic of a blockbuster.
Yeah.
Especially he knows how to go really nostalgic with things, which it can be a blessing and a curse.
And I think like if he had directed Man of Steel, it could have laid a good clean start to the DC universe, like visually and tonally. You wouldn't be like so boxed into what Zack Snyder had created.
Yeah, and like he probably would have stolen some things from the old ones, even though was it the Bryan Singer one? The Bryan Singer one still had some positives to it. I mean, I think for me that it captured the vibe really well.
I don't know. I don't know what that film was. Still,
it's probably Bryan Singer.
I'm still not sure if that film was supposed to be like a complete standalone thing, or is it supposed to be a sequel to the originals? Because I thought I read somewhere that it was supposed to be a sequel to those movies.
It's a sequel and a reboot at the same time.
But how can it be a sequel if the originals was in the 70s and 80s, and then they're using cell phones in this one?
That's why it's a reboot at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's pretty much all my thoughts on Man of Steel. If you don't have anything else, do you have anything else?
Man, just a quick thing. Okay. I would also like looking for an actor that can also, well, not an actor, a director that could probably bring the best out of Henry Cavill.
Oh, would you have chose Henry Cavill if you could go back?
I mean, if it came down to it, it's just like, all right, we got like, let's work with the pieces that we got. Let's like, I pretty much like, I would have got somebody or someone, or at least let's see let's see what he can do. Let me push him. Like this man pushed his body to the limit.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, I'm gonna test you like as an actor now. Let me like I want to say like let's go for an Oscar performance, but like show me what you can do here. Like push yourself to the limit. Like I want to see you to a point you're not playing the character, you're living it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'll just like push him. Like let's see where I can like empty that tank out.
Gotcha.
Because like we all seen Henry Cavill. Like when he acts, he can actually do like a decent job. Especially like
I mean, I haven't seen that yet, but I haven't seen as many movies with him as you have.
Oh, I don't know. I still think like if there's like the right director or someone like again that can bring the best out of him, I think that man can knock anything out of the park. But Zack Snyder was not. That was Zack Snyder's guy, but Zack Snyder wasn't the right guy to lead him to the promised land.
All right, well, that's our thoughts on Man of Steel, guys. The next time we do this, we're going to be talking about Batman versus Superman and going in deep on that. And then we also got some really cool other videos coming out your way. Thanks for watching.